Good morning, and welcome back to my journey. I want to share with you this morning. I'm closing out of Psalms, and kind of sad about that because it's certainly been an encouragement. But I'm going over into Proverbs, and actually I've been reading some in Proverbs already. And just love it because it is a code of behavior. If you want to know how we are to live and the blessings that come from living the way that is described in the book of Proverbs, go to Proverbs and read it. It is very clear and so true that God's blessings come from wisdom and wisdom with understanding, and Proverbs is all about that. I just want to read real quick in closing out Psalms. I think the way it ends is just great. Psalms 150, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. What a way to end the book of Psalms. This morning I got up really early. It's dark outside and raining outside, and so had my cup of coffee, and I haven't spent very much time on getting myself ready. Today's going to be a busy day. Today's my community outreach day and my Bible study on the book Fervent, and it's about prayer and came from the movie The War Room. But anyway, moving forward into Proverbs and getting to the point of starting to share some of my story. This particular proverb in Proverbs 3 and 32 kind of opened something up to me. For the perverse person is an abomination to the Lord. And so, as I've shared about trying to find my way, my journey, and trying to find a positive way to share about what has happened in my life, I'm finding that way. I'm finding some words, such as using the word perverse, which describes a wicked person and who has let sin go to its ultimate end and now is in a state of perversion and without Christ. And of course, God has his arms open wide for all to come to him. And so even those that are in the sin of perversion or any other kind of sin, he opens his arms wide. His loving heart is open to all of us. And thank God for that. Thank God for that, or I wouldn't be sitting here today. But I at least can change the word for the name and just say pervert or perversion. So as I shared with you, I think the last time we were together, I shared the picture of this picture, and this is a picture of that is symbolic of my mother and what I call the beginning of evil. And so that little red wagon means something, and I'll be trying to share that as best I can. My mother was, when she was little, had some things that happened that imprinted in her memory, and as a lot of us do. And this thing, well, let me just say that my mother, as I've shared, has Alzheimer's. And when she was in the very first stages and she was she'd had a number of mini strokes and she's beginning to lose her memory, and she knew she was losing her memory. And but she was still remembering quite a bit. So one day I had a very long phone conversation with her, and I just needed to find out some information about when she was a child. And so I called her, and we're friends. We're not just mother and daughter, because I was the oldest of 6, and I actually helped raise my siblings to a certain age. And so anyway, I was asking her about her childhood and what she remembered and how did she, because I knew that she raised herself for most of her years. And I knew that she grew up in a community where part of my life, the start of my life for several years, were in that same community. And so I wondered about the place and the things that I faced. So anyway, my mother shared with me that when she was a toddler, she had a very traumatic instance that happened to her, and she remembered it, and she had blocked it out of her mind for quite some time, but she remembered it right down to the details. And so it was that one day, as the family were getting ready to go to a social event, and in the backwoods of Louisiana, in this community, I'd say that we were a little less than wealthy and more on the poor part, but we didn't realize that we were poor because everybody around us was in the same state. But anyway, my mother, sister, and all of her siblings, she was the youngest of 9, and all of her siblings were a lot older except for one brother, and most of them married with children the age of my mother. And so anyway, she remembers distinctly this little outfit that her older sister made for her. It was a little pinafore dress with the little pantaloons, and she remembered that and just thought it was so beautiful because it was brand new, and they didn't get a lot of new things. And so she also remembers that her brother had a little red wagon, and he would not let her ride in the little red wagon, and she always wanted to ride in that wagon. She remembers that wagon quite well. And another thing she remembered was that they had a lot of little new baby chicks, and she wanted to see the baby chicks and hold the baby chicks. So this morning, as everyone was getting ready, my mom was fussing because she could see the red wagon, and so her stepfather picked her up and took her out and asked her if she wanted to ride in the red wagon. And she was so excited because she was getting to ride in the red wagon finally. And he said, I'll take you out and you can see the chicks, and I'll catch one and you can hold it. And so she was so excited about this. She finally was going to ride in the red wagon. She had a new little outfit on, and she was going to hold the baby chicks. And so he took her out to, we had a barn and a crib attached and a lean-to, and so, which was another entry to the barn. And so he set her on the ground. And my mom was concerned, was fussy, because she didn't want to get her little new outfit dirty, even though she could barely speak in full sentences, and she remembered this. And so, as it were, perversion, or the perverted, took place. And so this sexual immorality, perversion, was imposed on my mother's person, and from a person that should have been providing protection for her. And it was so traumatic of a happening that it imprinted on her memory, and I believe was the source of many poor choices and decisions that she made throughout her life, at least before she met Jesus. You know, Satan, he is not omnipresent. He's not like God. He can't be everywhere. But we have to remember that a third of the angels fell from heaven and followed Satan, the old devil. And so he is the prince of the power of the air, and he has principalities, and he has fallen angels. And they know our history. They know history. They know us. And they know us well. They've lived for thousands of years, and so, or existed for thousands of years. And so they can very easily predict behavior. And so nothing pleases the old devil more than to destroy someone's life. And he uses sin. And, you know, perversion is sin. We're all messed up people. And at our worst, we become perverted. And so when left to our own, we become something that is not good. And we can strive to be good people and to be better, but it takes something more than just trying to be good to help us. And that is Jesus the Christ. But going back to the story, so he took my mother and he threw her into a horse trough. And then he rinsed her in that horse trough and pulled her out and put her in the little Red Wagon. And my mother, a toddler, is still crying to see the baby chicks. After all that has just happened to her, she's crying to see the baby chicks. And so he tells her, as he pulls her in the wagon back to the house, that if she says anything, that he will kill all of the baby chicks. And needless to say, my mother did not get to hold a baby chick. But she remembers being brought back into the house and fuss going on, and she was fussed at for getting muddy and getting dirty, and for ruining her new little outfit. And what a horrendous, horrible event. And needless to say, it would imprint in her memory. And so I call that the beginning of evil, because it was in the community, and in that self-same community, years later, without the blood of Christ, breaking that chain of sin and depravity, sin is going to take its course. And so there were things that happened in my life, and tragic to say that some of the people that imposed those depravity, the perversion, were some of the same people that caused trauma in my mother's life. So anyway, I want to stop there. I don't want to leave you with feelings of that all is lost, because indeed all was not. My mother may have forgotten a lot, but one of the things, once she was saved, she became a prayer warrior, and she, in everything that she's forgotten, has never forgotten her Bible, and she's never forgotten to pray. When she opens her Bible, she told me that she may not know who she's praying for. She sees all these prayer lists in her Bibles, but she figures that if they're in there, they must need prayer. What a wonderful, wonderful thing that God has done in my mother's life. I want to read this, as I always leave you with a psalm. I hate to say this may sound a little down, but this is kind of the preface of what happened to me and God's mercy. It's called The Little Girl Behind the Door. Don't run and hide behind the door, for truth shall find you out. The wicked lays in wait. In a little he shall be gone. And I shall gather you to myself, like petals that softly float upon the breeze, a gentle breeze, and lights within my hands. And he, the wicked thing you see, his end shall swiftly come. In afterlife I wait for him. To his judgment I shall see. And the fire, it is not quenched. And the worm, it does not die. So leave your pain to me, my child, instead with faith and hope and power that my angels bring. Come out from the shadows of that door. Come hide beneath my wings. And that's the loving offer of Abba, Father. I think I've probably shared that with you. I will probably share it again because of its meaning in my memory. Thank you for being with me on this journey. I hope you have a blessed day. And go ahead and start out in Proverbs and find out the code of behavior.